goes and what it is that you need to do in order to get your business up and running properly. This is going to be a little different. As you see a big question mark up on your screen, my presentation is the business of failure, right? How can you start a business and continue with that business and make sure that it doesn't fail? Well, to get to that point, there's a lot of questions that you have, and these questions need answers. And I guess the first question is starting the business. You have a bright idea, and the question is, do you have the experience in the environment to get that business off and running? And that's what this presentation is going to be about. So if you'll bear with me, let me see if I can get rid of this over here. So starting a business, the bright idea, that's the first thing that you get. Do you have the experience in that environment? If not, are you prepared to research it? You know, everyone who has started a business will come up with some, in their minds, fantastically great idea about something that maybe nobody else has, and they'd like to start it, and they'd like to do something with it. I'll tell you a little bit about me and my background, how I started businesses. My first business was at the ripe old age of 5. Yeah, what I would do is I would go out and I would hustle lawn jobs, and I'd go to all the neighbors and knock on their door, and they'd see this cute little kid trying to hustle a lawn job from them, and of course they'd pay me at that time the $3 to cut half an acre lawn. But of course I'd run over. It wasn't quite like that. I'm exaggerating a little bit as far as the money's concerned. But I would, as soon as I'd get the money, I'd run on over to my dad and I say, "Hey, I got another job." And my dad, of course, he'd shake his head and he said, "Oh my goodness." So he'd go over and he'd start doing the work from the job that I was able to get. It's sort of like child abuse in reverse. Then I started my next businesses at 9, and then 11, and then another at 17, and continued from there. But in my early years, I would start a business like most people do. It was a bright idea and just go on and do it. Sometimes it worked, most of the times it doesn't. And that's what we're here to talk about. What's important if you are going to start a business is deciding the business location, and it is vitally important. Are you going to work from home? And everything that you have to deal with that is your location, or is your business one that requires a location? Are you opening up a sort of business that you have to have a location, maybe a restaurant or a retail store of some sort? Finding that location and dealing with that, those are other aspects of having to do with business. So is it a hybrid? When you're working from home, of course, you've got family matters you have to deal with. A lot of times people will not understand when you're working from home that that's exactly what you're doing. You're working. So be prepared. These are things that you have to get in your mind, that when you're going to work from home, you have to sit down with the family and talk to them and make them understand, this is a job that I have. This is going to be our next method of income. So keep that in mind as you start your business. Be prepared to talk to your family, make them understand that you are running a business. If you're finding a location, keep yourself in mind also that whatever location you find is going to have to be something that's going to sustain your business. If you're opening up a car dealership in a location that's full of boat dealers, well, you probably may not have a lot of success. But if you're opening up a car dealership in an area where there's more car dealerships, you would say to yourself, your first response would be, well, wait a minute. If there's other car dealers there, why do I want to open it up in the same area? And it's because there are other car dealers there that you want to open it up in the same area. Remember, your target market is going to go to that block, to that neighborhood, looking for a car. Hopefully, you've got the car that they want to buy. Is it a hybrid model? Is your business one where you can go to the location and work from home? Excuse me. If this is what you choose, again, this is a job. Every time that you go to that work, make sure to that location, make sure that there's a good reason behind it, and make sure that that location has whatever tools are going to be necessary when you leave your home, so that when you come back home, you can continue using those same tools. You don't want to create a gap, because within that gap, you could lose business. That all important phone call, or maybe that important paperwork that you left at the other location that now you have to go to the second location to deal with. So again, whenever you're in a hybrid model, you have to be completely and utterly prepared at all times, and make sure that whatever tools you would normally deal with, you have access to those tools in both locations. Changing your business location is it important? Bear with me. You see, sorry about that. So, yeah, so funding your business. Did I skip? I didn't skip one, did I? No, I did. Okay, funding your business. You'll have costs, right? Like any business, you have to say to yourself, what costs am I going to encounter? And you have to be prepared for that. And the resources that you're going to have, are they going to be private? Are they going to be government? Private, is it raiding your savings account? Is it credit card time where you can max out all your credit cards? Are you going to mortgage the house? Is that something that you're ready and willing to do? Are you going to mortgage your reputation? Borrow from your family and borrow from your friends, because if things don't go too well, and even if they are going well, they're going to ask, how's it going with the money that I gave you? Are you going to sell vaporware? If you're not familiar with vaporware, that's something that you're promising people you're going to give to them after you've gotten the money to build it. You've got to make sure that you're going to have the money to build it prior to making promises that you're going to be able to deliver it. Grants, that's the ticket. If you've thought about getting grants for your business, that's a great idea. The U.S. government and many corporations, private enterprise and public enterprise, and even other nonprofits, they have monies available to help businesses that they feel can they feel are in the direction that that particular company or that particular organization would like to see their money spent. The issue, though, is with grants, it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of knowledge in order to make sure to complete those grants properly and in the manner that the grantor would like you to prepare it. So be prepared to have some time set aside if you decide to go with grants. The first step, help. And what I mean by that, well, so now you've got this bright idea and you think you can do a lot with it, because now you've decided of the funding. What you've already decided, well, I already know what resource I'm going to use. I'm going to use a combination of the bank account that I have, some credit card, and grants. But then you sit back and you say, well, can I do this on my own? And that's where the help comes in. Are you ready, willing, and able to bring somebody on? Someone who doesn't necessarily know your dream, someone that you're going to have to tell them your dream and explain it to them. And are they going to dream big like you're dreaming big? When you hire an individual, or when you hire individuals, you have to make sure that it is very much a working relationship and a business relationship. What that means is if you hire a relative, you both have to understand that the relative part, well, that comes back at 5 o'clock. From 9 to 5 or whatever working hours you decide, that's a business. And both of you have to be prepared to understand that if things don't go well, you're the majority owner. And there'll be a time that you might have to fire that individual, whether they're your spouse or your son or your daughter or your mom or your dad, or even your best friend. That's very important. In the same respect, if you go online and you bring somebody in and you interview this person and this person sounds like you, they're just crackerjack. They're fantastic. I could really use this individual. They're everything I ever wanted in a partner. You've got to make sure that that's the case. It takes time to develop a relationship with someone on a personal scale. It takes even more time on a business scale, because you want to be able to share with that person everything that's going on in the business, but in the same respect, you have to understand that their loyalties, or you have to go into this with the understanding is that that individual's loyalties, of course, are to themselves and their family. So when you hire somebody from the outside, make sure that you're both on the same wave. Make sure if a non-disclosure agreement is necessary, that that individual has signed it, and it's very tight and it's very good so that it can't be taken apart. And make sure that you check in with that person on a regular basis to again make sure that they're in going in the same direction as you are. The first steps. This is first steps 2. The first steps 1 and first steps 2. They're both first steps, actually. The business plan. And you say to yourself, well, business plan, well, I already know what I want to do. I'm going to open up a business, and I already know what kind of business I'm going to open up. I don't really need a business plan. Well, absolutely. Yes, you do. You need a business plan for your own self, your own good. The whole purpose of a business plan is to give you a schematic of what it is that you plan to do as you move forward, because whatever it is that your plans are, they're going to change. I'm not very religious, but there's this beautiful joke that I like. And the joke is like this. If you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. Because that's the way plans work. They change. Even the plan that you wrote yourself, it's going to change. As you move forward as a company, you're going to see that some thoughts that you had in your mind, you now have a way to improve them. And with each improvement, you can update your business plan so that you can go back to it, and tomorrow, next month, and a year from now, you can go back to what you've already done and improve on that. It'll also give you a direction of where it is that you want to go. Again, the whole purpose of a business plan is it's a summary of where you believe your company should go and how you think it should get there. It should include your executive summary, sections on product and services, the marketing strategy and analysis, your financial planning, and a budget. These are all very important to a business plan. You'll see many individuals and many groups will tell you that a business plan should be X amount of pages. A business plan should be as long as you want to make it. If you think that you could create a business plan in 1 page, go for it. You can't create a business plan in 1 page. I don't care what kind of business you have, but it's a start. And that's what you want. You want something that you can start on, that you can go back to often, take a look at it, and see how you can improve on it. I'm in the process of starting up another company. And my business plan was originally about, I think, 6 pages. And now it's up to, I think, maybe 9 or 10. And this is in a 3-year period. And it will continue to grow, because that's what business plans do. They grow. They grow with your company. As you expand, so does that business plan. Choosing a business structure. Are you going to wing it, are you going to plan it? One of the greatest factors in failing a company is not planning properly. And that's why you want to create a legal structure for it. And it's very important. It's not a question of just incorporating the company, but making sure that you've got that legal structure. Finding out about insurance, finding out about your business finances, finding out about registration requirements. I remember I started a company where I live, and one of the things that I had forgotten to do was to get a local license for the sort of company that I had. And I would get some things in the mail. I'm trying to start up a company, so I was trying to use my time to my best effort, and I would get information every so often. It didn't look very official. As it turns out, after about the third one, that it was very official. It was from my city, that they're about to fine me an exorbitant amount of money because I still had not licensed my company. I did it in time, but make sure that you're following whatever requirements your city, your county, your state, your province it requires of you. Because if not, it could come back and bite you and hurt you much more. Make sure you have an idea how much you're going to pay in taxes and your personal liability. Those are all part of the infrastructure that you have to create for your company. Register your business. Sorry about this. I'll get rid of this. Register your business. Make sure that it's properly registered, as I said before, with all the proper authorities. Get your federal and state tax IDs. These seem like very minute issues or potential problems, but they can create very big problems later on. So you want to make sure to cover these details so that your company is not fined and again drives you to failure. Apply for your licenses and permits, and most importantly, open a business bank account. Even if you have to use the most minimal amount of money in whatever bank or whatever institution you decide to use. The reason for that is because as you continue as a company, you're going to be requested by particular businesses that you're dealing with. Do you offer credit? Or from your vendors, they're going to ask you about your credit. And from the government itself, it's going to ask you about your credit. Or if you decide to go after grants, they're going to ask you about your bank account and your finances. If you have a bank account where you can put at least a minimal amount of money, you'll be able to answer these questions. It's not so much, you're starting a business, it's not so much how much money you have, but that you're prepared. And that's what all the other partners are going to want to know. Those partners being the government or vendors or customers themselves. Very importantly, first or last, what's in a name? So I've spoken about starting a business and how to get that business up and running. What are you going to need in order to get that business up and running, the requirement. But I kind of left the name for last. Not kind of, I left the name for last. And I'll tell you why. A lot of times you'll think of a great business and you'll say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to name this Mario's business. And you're starting everything, you're thinking about this, and then at the end you say, well, wait a minute. Mario's business. Well, what does Mario's business do? It might sound great to you, but nobody else will know what Mario's business does. So if you're going to start a business for marketing reasons, get a name that's catchy, get a name that others will immediately understand what your business is about so that they can immediately relate to it and they have at least a basis to do business with you, something that they can something that they can rely on to understand what sort of business that you have. And I'll give you a couple examples. My wife and I had she started my wife's company. She started a catering company. Her name is Marcela. So we called it Kitchen Marcela. And we did that knowing that a whole lot of people were going to call it Kitchen Marsala, as in chicken marsala, or they were going to think of chicken marsala and then Kitchen Marcela. So it was just a marketing trick that we did. But the point being is that it was catchy and it caught on to our customer base. A business that I'm starting right now, it's called Mystery on Main Street. For those of you that don't know about my business, the first thing that comes to your mind is, Mystery on Main Street. Well, that sounds interesting. Hopefully you think that, right? It sounds interesting. Well, the whole purpose behind it, it's a mystery game that takes individuals into Main Street retailers. And you play a mystery game and you solve the mystery and you win prizes. The whole purpose of it is to bring people to bring people into the game by giving it a name such as that, Mystery on Main Street, because again, the focus on it is Main Street and and as well as the focus on retailers and the mom and pop businesses. So very importantly, whatever name you get for your company, make sure that it's a name that others can rely on and relate to, because that'll also prevent you from failing, as opposed to a name that's very typical, very common, and no one will necessarily understand what it is that you're trying to do.
Hey, thanks very much, Mario. You've given us a lot of great insight.
And I'm
limited
done.
on time, but it would be helpful if maybe you could put in the chat the Mystery on Main Street video. It's something that other communities, not just in the United States, but around the world, may want to offer their own local business districts where they can collaborate in creating kind of a fun environment for customers.
All right.
We're moving over now to Paul Ellis and his team in Fairview Heights. Paul, are you ready to go?